Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. April 3rd, 2025. I'm tired. I was just in the stream behind my house. You know, the one that I've been maintaining for the last 6 years. The one that I clean. The one that I pull the leaves and the branches out of. The one that's being vandalized. I wish I had my phone with me while I was cleaning it, but I did a little bit of a fix to the best of my ability, but I'm going to answer some questions first. Somebody asked me, well, how did you know that that there was no easement recorded? Well, this is what happens, and this is why when you purchased land like this, and I didn't know, make sure that you have a survey. Make sure that homeowner has a survey for you. Make sure that you're aware of the title search. If you don't do the title search, usually what happens is the bank will do it. But because I paid for my house, my property in cash, I didn't have a bank doing all these checks and balances for me. And the owner, when he bequeathed the property to his two sons, I'm sure they were dealing with a lot of grief and stuff and having to deal with getting rid of all this stuff. They had no survey done. They divided the property. I don't even know how they were able to divide it, because in the will it just gives the acreage, the full acreage of all the property. So he probably relied on some local attorneys, which no doubt they did. And no doubt those local attorneys are corrupt and gave them the wrong information. So they divided the property corruptly. Yes. So there's a whole agenda going on with this property. So to answer your question, again, I did not have any of this information when I signed on the dotted line. I did not have a survey. I did not have a title, a full title. I did not have any of this information. Zero. So the next time around, anybody buys property, not if you buy a house, generally if you buy a house, you've got an acre of land, and you know it's an acre of land, not a big deal. But when you own more than 10 acres of land, you need a survey. Even if you own 10 acres, you have to have a survey, get a title search. Because in this county, there are no ordinances. Remember, we were talking about ordinances and stuff. There are none set up here in Jackson County. It's a free-for-all here. You can do whatever you damn please here. Pluses and minuses. Obviously, pluses are that you can build whatever you want, as long as you get, permits and stuff like that for the electrical and plumbing. You can have any kind of farm animals you want here. Pretty much you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can have a cemetery on your property. But if you decide that your cemetery is a public property, then a public cemetery, you have to allow the public access to it. If you decide you want to have a private cemetery on your property, which of course people do, they bury their animals, maybe grandparents and stuff like that, they want it close to home, that would be considered a private cemetery. It's not open to the public. And therefore nobody else has access to it except you. The reason I'm mentioning is because when I moved here, my next door neighbor there, who was arguing with me about the property across the street that I own, they own the land behind it and next to it, but not the property that I own up against the county road. They were claiming that I had to give them access because they have a cemetery on their property half a mile down the road. And in all these years, they never built a little bridge down there to give them access to it. And I did a Google search and I was able to find their cemetery and stuff. So they have plenty of ways to get to that little cemetery there. They don't need access through my gate. And mind you, if they had been nice neighbors and approached me and said, hey, I had this arrangement with a former owner, do you think I could blah, 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 use your gate, a couple of times a year? I probably would have said yes. but not what they did. No, no, no. And I will make sure that whoever owns the property after me will know the entire story, so that they're not screwed by the neighbors about the gate across the street and the property. So anyway, so if you have, in Kentucky, you can have your own cemetery on your property. It can either be a public cemetery, meaning you need to have access to the public, or a private cemetery, in which case there is no access to the cemetery by anyone else. Also, if you decide you want a public cemetery, you have to register it with the county. That's the caveat. The same goes for easements, okay? You know, back in the day, and I'm going to find out, I've got to do research, when that road cut through this property. I have to find out when it cut through, when it was incorporated, all that stuff. Because somebody signed off on that road being built, cutting through the property here. And it was probably over 100 years ago. So over 100 years ago, they just assumed, you know, well, we're going to create an easement because it's a county road. We have to, the homeowners have to allow us access a county road through their property. And my property's on both sides of the street. No big deal. Yeah, I want a county road, right? Anybody would want a county road, right? So basically the homeowner bequests, let me get the correct terminology here for it. One second. One second. There's a terminology for it. Then let me just pull it up here. And I made sure that I got the information from ChatGPT. Okay, it's called a burdened property, okay? The question refers to, you get this through a title search. When you do a title search, and it shows up, if it will be a check mark if there is an easement. Under that, if there is an easement, there will be the name of the person or persons, whether it's a person, county, or business that owns the easement. And sometimes there's an easement to allow access to utilities, water rights, you know, like I've got a county creek here and stuff like that. An easement is the legal right allowing someone to use another person's land for a specific purpose. It doesn't mean you don't own the land. It's still part of your acreage. But you're allowing access to another person for a specific person, for a specific purpose. In this case, the county road is for travel. That's it. It's for travel. On both sides of the county road, in some instances, but not all, there are ditch lines that collects the rainwater that goes through culverts and deposits all the way down the county road. I have no idea where. I need to find that out. And as a result of my property, let's say if there was a recorded easement, that's the key, recorded easement. There is no recorded easement in the last 30 years of this property. There's no recorded easement. It doesn't mean that they think that they have one. They may think that they have one, but it's not recorded. So if they decide they're going to record it now, it means nothing to me. For the past 6 years, they have been illegally trespassing and vandalizing my property. For the past 6 years, there is no recorded easement on my title, which is over 30 pages long. I've never seen this before, okay? And I've got Travis's living with his will at the time. in great detail. Signatures, all the old script and all that stuff. Notary stamps, all of that. So a title search is a review of property records to confirm ownership, encumbrances, or easements. And then when the search comes back, you get a yes or a no. So it came back, mobile home on land, and there was one, but it was torn down. So it said no. Easement. It said no. Easement owner. NA, not applicable. Okay? There were other things that I won't go into now because other things that need to be addressed on my part. But those are the things that were clear to me that there is no recorded easement. And get this, you want to hear something? I wanted to confirm all this by calling the clerk, the county clerk. So I call and I speak to somebody and they said, oh, well, we can't do any kind of searches right now because our computers are down. How convenient. How convenient. Every time I have gone into town to get something done, the computers are down. Like when I went to get my driver's license, my Kentucky driver's license, computers were down. It's unbelievable. I think it's just BS. So now when an easement is recorded on your property, the search for your lands, which would be considered a burdened property, it would confirm who owns the easement, who holds it, not owns, who holds it, whether it's a person, a company, or a government agency. What does the easement allow? On mine it says NA, there is no easement. So an easement would allow road access, water usage, the county creek there, or other specific rights. There were none listed. And then there's the duration of the easement. Is it temporary or permanent? Then there are restrictions or obligations, any limitations that you must follow. If an easement exists, but the burdened property, mine, wasn't properly searched, you might not know the full details of the easement, and there could be legal or financial implications. Now, we did the search. I should have done the search 6 years ago when I bought the property, but I did it now. And there is no recorded easement. Zero. So, in order to find out information about this, I would have to contact the Jackson County Clerk's office, or through a title search company, which I paid for. It's not free. I had to search for title companies, give them my information, and it took, I guess, a couple of weeks to get me the search. They said that if there are any discrepancies or errors, they would have to be corrected, either through a lawyer, or I would have to place it in writing, get a notary, and stuff like that. And for the record, let me just get the other thing, because I want to talk to you about the water in Kentucky. Now, this is the law. In Kentucky, water rights generally follow the riparian doctrine. It means that if a creek, like the county creek, or stream flows through or along your property, you likely have the right to reasonable use of that water as long as it does not harm downstream users. Meaning, like, I'm not going to throw anything, in the water. I'm not going to put any chemicals in there, none of that stuff. It's, the wildlife drinks the water. You use it to water plants. That's it. Here's how the ownership and rights typically work. If it's a county creek, which I have on the side of my property, If the creek is officially designated as a county waterway, and that has not been determined yet, the county may have jurisdiction over it, especially regarding maintenance, access, restrictions on alterations. You hear that? So that cement slop job is disgusting. Okay? So now we don't know if it's officially designated as a county waterway. I'll have to check. However, even if it is designated as a county waterway, I may still have riparian rights to use the water in reasonable ways for livestock, irrigation, or personal use, as long as I'm not affecting the downstream, like chemicals or anything like that. Now, there's a mountain stream, which I have, surrounding my property, which I have. If the stream is natural and not artificially diverted, you have the riparian rights, meaning you can use the water within reasonable limits, but you cannot obstruct or significantly alter its natural flow to the detriment of others downstream, which I would never do. I've been maintaining it for 6 years. Then there's groundwater and springs. Something else I have. If the water originates from underground springs on your land, Kentucky law generally allows you to use it freely. However, if it feeds into a larger waterway, there could be limitations. Mine doesn't feed into a larger waterway. Then there are state and federal regulations. If the creek or stream connects to navigable waters, which we don't have. This is not navigable waters. State or federal agencies may have regulatory authority over pollution, water withdrawal, or modifications to the waterway. Okay, so that's what I want to explain to you guys. And this is very important. If you decide to buy land, you know, a lot of people are going off grid, and if you want to buy land, if you want to buy property that was owned before, get yourself a title search so that you can see if there are any easements or restrictions, etc. So today I tried to contact the county clerk to see if they recorded any easement or public right-of-way. And of course, that would have had to have been done dozens of years ago. Not recently. No Judge Gabbard. Not 6 years ago. This would have had to have been done dozens of years ago. It says, review the local water ordinances with your county clerk's office. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there are any. There are no ordinances here. So the way riparian rights, RIPARIAN, rights work in Kentucky, Kentucky adheres to the riparian doctrine, granting landowners whose property abuts a water course the right to reasonable use of the water, provided it does not unreasonably interfere with the rights of other riparian owners. This means that you can utilize the water flowing through or adjacent to your property for purposes such as irrigation, livestock, or personal use, as long as it does not harm downstream users. Okay, so I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. I'm going to put this out there so that you understand how I came across this information. And also, it's specifically stated that there were no, that the mineral rights were not rerouted to anyone, that they are intact. So for anybody listening here, you know, anybody who's eavesdropping, surveilling me and stuff, that's on the title. This title search went back 30 years. Okay? Anything that happened before 30 years, I don't know about. I'm sure I could ask if they can go back further. I would probably have to pay additional fee. And if I have to do it, I will. But I highly recommend, if you're purchasing land, property, a home on property land, that you make sure you have a title search done and a legal land survey, so you know where your property begins and ends. You won't have some crazy ass neighbor telling you that your property begins there when it begins here, because somebody's trying to steal your land, which they've been trying to do for 6 years, and they're trying to do it now too. Real estate mobbing, property mobbing. But this is not going away, and I am glad now. I am so glad that my property hasn't sold yet, because I am uncovering now, during Mercury retrograde, information that I did not have 6 years ago, or 4 years ago, or last year. But I have it now. And I'm going to make sure that my rights are not encroached upon. So anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I'm going to sign off for now. I will read later Karen Romero's part, I think it's part 3. So I'm going to sign off for now. If you have questions and comments, leave them down below. Please let me know if you owned land, because I know, a couple of people have given me testimony who own property. So, and I want to know if, when you bought and sold your property, in West Virginia, did you ever have a title search done? Did you have a land survey done? I'm curious. I mean, maybe not. But anyway, I will talk to you guys later.